Property jargon can be so hard to understand at times, and it can be really hard to understand and get your head around what it all actually means and understand what it actually means so you can actually talk about it with people and have conversations surrounding these jargon terms. So what do they actually mean and how do you sort of use them within property? Stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to be showing you and telling you exactly what each property jargon term is and exactly what they mean. So, property jargon is essentially all of the acronyms and the words that surround property and what they mean. Now there's so many, so I'm not going to cover them all in this video. I'm just going to cover most of the acronyms and in terms of what they are. But making sure that you understand these is really, really important from the get-go because they're used all day, every day within property. And if you don't understand them, it can be really hard to actually know what certain things are or whether a deal's good or not, because the jargon is used on deals that you see. The jargon's used everywhere, on posts that you see, on education, on YouTube videos, on deals that are sent to you by agents. Everything is used in everything, so you need to understand it and get your head around the basic jargon so you can go out and confidently look at deals, you can confidently speak to people, you can confidently speak to agents and use this terminology with actually knowing what it means without just sort of guessing and getting it wrong essentially. So yeah, we've been through this, guys. We have used the wrong terminology on things and we have seen posts of certain acronyms and think, what on earth does that mean? And because it was used so often, we sort of got used to it, but we still didn't know what it meant. So we were still scrolling through these posts, still speaking to people saying, yeah, we know what that means. But we didn't know what it meant. We weren't actively going out and searching for that. So if you ever do see a term in property which you don't know what it means, just search it up because the answer will be on Google or on a YouTube video like this. The property jargon, there's so much of it to consider, but in this video I'm just going to give a basic rundown of a few jargon terms and exactly what they mean when you're investing in property. So this is just going to be sort of a quick fire video and I'm just going to run off through all of the terms and the main terms that you're really going to see when looking at property and property deals. So the first one, and probably the most common one that you're going to see within property, is BTL. Now what that means is buy to let, and essentially that is any property investment really. So buy to let, you're buying a property to rent it out. Now it could apply to any of the strategies you're looking at, because unless you're flipping it, but if you're buying to rent it out on any strategy, it's a buy to let. So it could apply to any, but most of the time it's used when you're buying a property with the sole purpose of just renting it out straight away, no work being done, buy to let. That's what it's used as, and it's a strategy in itself in that sense. So BTL is buy to let, and that's what it means. The next one, which you're going to be looking at, and a very common one, is ROI, return on investment. Now that is essentially the return that you get on a monthly basis with the profit compared to the total investment that you put into the property. So essentially it's worked out as the annual profit divided by the total investment, so the total money that you put into the deal, or the total money that's put in the deal altogether. So that's return on investment, and this is really important because it allows you to analyze the deal holistically. That is what return on investment is. Yield, another common one that you're going to see with a lot of BTL deals, buy to let deals, is yield. So yield is essentially the rent, so not the profit, it's the rent that you get in relation to the purchase price. So it's Similar structure to return on investment, ROI, but yield is, instead of taking into account the monthly cost to get a profit, you're just taking the monthly rent, and instead of taking into account the total investment that you put in, it's just the purchase price, instead of taking into account a mortgage deposit and things like that. So the way that that's worked out is just the annual rent divided by the purchase price. And again, this just allows you to analyze the deal in terms of what sort of rent you're getting in relation to the purchase price. Is it worth it? And is it going to be a good deal? So the yields are typically higher in lower priced areas, but again, it's all relative to what you're looking to achieve. So the next one is BRRR. It has many R's. It could go on for ages, but BRR or BRRR is buy, refurbish, refinance, or buy, refurbish, refinance, rent. Some people use 4R, some people use 3. But essentially, we've got a video on the whole strategy, but you buy a property, you refurbish it, you remortgage it at the new value after you've refurbished it, and then you rent it out. That's essentially what it means. It's a property strategy in itself. So that is that one, BRR or BRRR. That's what that one means. The next jargon is LTV, loan to value. This is when you're getting finance on a property, so it could be bridging or it could be a mortgage. LTV, loan to value. So this is the amount of money in terms of a loan that you're getting in relation to the value of the property. So if the property was £100,000 and you were getting a £75,000 loan, the loan to value or LTV would be 75%, because 75,000 is 75% of 100,000. So that's important to work in that out, because then you know how much your monthly payments are going to be, you know what your deposit is going to be, and again, it allows you to understand the numbers and analyze the deal holistically. So more jargon for you then. The next thing is SA, serviced accommodation, which is where you rent the property out on a short-term basis. So you rent the property out on a night-by-night basis usually, or sometimes you can do it on a weekly basis. Essentially, you'll put the property on Airbnb and you'll rent it out on a nightly basis. And you rent it out typically to people staying for leisure, so tourists or people visiting family, or you rent it out to contractors, so people that are working in the area but don't actually live in the area. So SA, serviced accommodation, that's another property strategy which you're looking at as well. There is also R2R, which is rent to rent. So this is another property strategy which is essentially where you rent the property from a landlord and then you rent it out in a separate way to achieve profit compared to what you're paying the landlord. So you can use SA, serviced accommodation, to do this, or another jargon, you can use HMO. So HMO is house of multiple occupancy. So this is where you rent the property out on a room by room basis. It can also be called a multi-let or co-living, but you rent the property out on a room by room basis and you get higher rent overall. Now there is legislation to all of this, but this is just basic stuff in terms of the jargon and what it means. So that's HMO. And then another one is D2V, so direct to vendor. Instead of buying a property through an estate agent, you're direct, so it's just you in contact with the landlord or the owner of the property, and you're negotiating with them directly, so direct to vendor. And usually you get better deals this way because you don't have to go through an agent and there's not any competition when you're buying the property. The final, but not the most important, they're all as important as each other. The final thing which I'm going to mention is voids. So void periods or voids are essentially periods in your property where it's not rented out, it's vacant, so you're not getting any rent. So what you want to do when you are looking at deals is account for this. What we typically do is 5% of the rent per month we account for voids. So that's essentially it, where your property isn't rented out, so you're not achieving any rent and you'll have to cover the mortgage costs. And that's what void periods are. So guys, that's the end of the video. It's just a quick one, property jargon busting. So much to consider, but I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a like and drop a comment below, letting me know what you think of all the jargon there, if it scrambled your brain, and if there's anything else that you would add in terms of jargon and common things that you'd see. Always interested to learn from you guys, so let me know in the comments below. And if you are new around here, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. If you want to check out more videos, they will be here. Feel free to click one of them. Both great videos, and until next time guys, we'll see you soon for another piece of premium property content.